In the 1960s, American automakers raced to capture the muscle car craze, but not every bold idea hit the mark. This decade saw a slew of stunning cars packed with innovative designs and powerful engines that, despite their promise, failed miserably in the marketplace. From bizarre styling choices to production, oddities, and niche performance models, these 30 cars represent the most fascinating misfires of the muscle era. Let's dive into these stunning 1960s American cars that were built to impress but ended up flopping spectacularly. Number 30. 1969 Shelby GT 500. The Shelby Mustang GT 500 arrived with more power on tap but lost a bit of the Shelby mystique and sold in disappointing numbers. By 1969, Ford had taken control of the design and gave the Mustang an even heavier look with a long, beefy front end and large cast-iron bumpers to meet rising safety standards. The Shelby GT 500 underwent a comprehensive facelift for that year, stretching the body by about 4 inches and relocating the headlights into the grille. In an unusual weight-saving move, Ford even built the front fenders, hood, and rear quarters from fiberglass, reportedly the first time a Mustang used composite body panels. Carroll Shelby himself had essentially stepped away by mid-year, leaving the 1969 GT 500 as largely a Ford-driven project wearing a Shelby nameplate. It still packed a potent 428 cubic inch Cobra jet V8 with around 335 horsepower, but that muscle had to lug around a growing curb weight. With a price tag roughly 20 to 25% higher than a comparable Mustang Mach 1, the Shelby GT 500 offered few extra luxuries beyond its brute force. Between that steep price and its heft, the car proved a tough sell on showroom floors. The result was a major flop. Only 1,872 GT 350, GT 500 Mustangs were built for 1969, and an astonishing 789 of them remained unsold that year. By federal decree, those leftover cars were simply re-tagged with 1970 model year VINs to clear them off the books. This inglorious ending effectively became the swan song of the first-generation Shelby program, as the once celebrated Shelby-Ford partnership quietly folded by late 1969. Number 29. 1960 Edsel Ranger. By the time the Edsel Ranger limped into showrooms in the beginning of 1960, the writing was already on the wall for one of Ford's most infamous disasters. Just 2 years prior, the Edsel brand had launched with immense hype and an unprecedented marketing budget, only to be met with confusion and ridicule over its awkward styling and questionable reliability. The 1960 Edsel Ranger was a last-ditch effort to salvage something from the wreckage, offered as a single model stripped of the ambitious engineering seen in earlier Edsels. Under the hood, it retained a solid 352 cubic inch V8 that produced respectable power, but the car's mechanical prowess wasn't enough to erase the public's sour perception of the brand. The once promised space-age innovations were gone, replaced by basic Ford components repackaged in slightly different sheet metal. Styling was toned down compared to the polarizing horse-collar grille of earlier models, but by then the Edsel name had already become a cultural punchline. The Ranger's biggest problem wasn't performance, it was trust. Ford had sunk nearly $250 million into developing and marketing the Edsel, the equivalent of over $2 billion in today's dollars, only to see dismal sales and mounting losses. With fewer than 3,000 Rangers sold for the 1960 model year, Ford pulled the plug on the entire Edsel division in November of 1959, before the car even had a full year to prove itself. That made the 1960 Edsel Ranger not only a failed model, but a symbol of how even the mightiest automaker could misread the market in spectacular fashion. It was a quiet end to one of Detroit's most public flops and unceremonious farewell for a brand that aimed for the stars and crashed before takeoff. Number 28. 1969 AMC Hearst SC Rambler. The AMC Hearst SC Rambler, launched in 1969, was one of the loudest and most outrageous performance cars ever to come out of Kenosha. This compact muscle machine, born from a collaboration between American Motors and legendary shifter manufacturer Hearst, was designed to shock both visually and mechanically. Its patriotically garish red, white, and blue paint scheme was impossible to ignore, while its 390 cubic inch V churned out 315 horsepower, enough to launch it down the quarter mile in under 14 seconds. Beneath the bold graphics and hood scoop sat a budget-friendly brute with real racing pedigree. But AMC's no-frills approach meant the SC Rambler came with bare-bones features: no radio, no air conditioning, and no real sound insulation. AMC was aiming squarely at young drag racing enthusiasts who cared about elapsed times, not comfort or refinement. For that audience, the car delivered, especially with its 4-speed manual transmission, heavy-duty suspension, and 3.54 rear gears. Despite its performance credentials, the SC Rambler's extreme styling polarized buyers, and its limited practicality made it a hard sell for anyone outside the muscle car fringe. While AMC managed to sell all 1,512 units produced, that number paled in comparison to the 85,000 Plymouth Roadrunners sold the same year. The SC Rambler became a cult classic but never cracked the mainstream. Its single-year production run meant it vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind a reputation as one of the most bizarre and underappreciated entries of the muscle era. In hindsight, it was a gutsy move from a small automaker trying to punch above its weight, but it also proved that outrageous style and raw power weren't always enough to guarantee success in a crowded marketplace. Number 27. 1962 Ford Thunderbird Sports Roadster. By the early 1960s, the Ford Thunderbird had already undergone a significant transformation from a nimble two-seater into a full-blown personal luxury coupe. In an attempt to recapture the sporty essence of the original, Ford introduced the Sports Roadster package in 1962, aiming to blend elegance with high-performance flair. This trim featured Kelsey Hayes wire wheels, a fiberglass tonneau cover that transformed the 4-seater convertible into the illusion of a sleek two-seater, and subtle performance tweaks. Under the hood, a potent 300 horsepower, 390 cubic inch V gave the car legitimate muscle for its day. Yet for all its visual drama and capable drivetrain, the Sports Roadster suffered from a fundamental identity crisis. It was neither a true sports car nor a practical cruiser. The tonneau cover, while stylish, was impracticulate, blocked access to the rear seats, and made the car less usable as a daily driver. The wire wheels were elegant but notoriously prone to maintenance headaches and weren't well suited for spirited driving. Perhaps the biggest problem was the price. The Sports Roadster package added significant cost to the already pricey Thunderbird, placing it well above many performance competitors in the showroom. Buyers weren't convinced it was worth the extra dollars for superficial flair and modest gains in performance. Only 1,427 were sold in 1962, and by 1963, that number dropped to just 455 units. By the end of 1963, Ford dropped the Sports Roadster entirely, recognizing that its ambitious blend of flash and speed had found no lasting audience. It stands today as a curious footnote in Thunderbird history, a car that tried to be everything to everyone, but ended up failing to satisfy anyone in particular. Number 26. 1966 Dodge Charger. The Dodge Charger debuted in 1966 as a bold, fastback muscle car meant to inject excitement into the Dodge lineup, but its earliest incarnation struggled to gain traction with buyers. Styled with a sweeping roofline, hideaway headlights, and a full-width grille, the Charger looked every bit the futuristic performance machine. Inside, it featured a unique 4-bucket seat interior with a center console that ran the full length of the cabin, an unusual and luxurious touch for the muscle segment. Under the hood, the base engine was a respectable 318 cubic inch V, but buyers could opt for larger and more powerful mills, including the legendary 426 cubic inch Street Hemi, rated at 425 horsepower. On paper, this made the Charger one of the most potent performance cars of its era, capable of blistering acceleration and serious track potential. But in practice, the car fell flat in the marketplace. The problem wasn't just price, it was identity. The Charger was neither as practical as a standard sedan, nor as nimble as its smaller competitors. Its fastback styling compromised rear headroom and visibility, and the full-length console made the rear seating impractical for families. Worse yet, its hefty weight blunted performance, especially in non-Hemi variants. While Dodge hoped to sell 40,000 units in the first year, only just over 37,000 left the showroom in 1966, a disappointing start for such a hyped release. The Charger would later find its groove with the second-generation redesign in 1968, but the original model stands as a cautionary tale. Stunning performance and bold styling alone aren't enough without a clear market fit. The 1966 Charger might have looked like the future, but it failed to resonate in the present. Number 25. 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado. The Oldsmobile Toronado burst onto the scene in 1966 as a revolutionary grand touring coupe that pushed the boundaries of American car engineering. It was the first American production car in nearly 3 decades to feature front-wheel drive, a layout previously considered incompatible with high-horsepower applications. Powered by a massive 425 cubic inch Super Rocket V delivering 385 horsepower, the Toronado combined brute force with technological daring. Its styling was equally radical, wide and low, with hidden headlights, flared fenders, and an aggressive fastback roofline that gave it a menacing stance. Inside, it continued the innovation with a flat floor made possible by the lack of a driveshaft tunnel and a futuristic dash layout. It was a car that seemed to redefine what an American personal luxury coupe could be. Despite critical acclaim and even earning Motor Trend's Car of the Year award for 1966, the Toronado struggled in the marketplace. Consumers were wary of front-wheel drive in such a large, heavy car, and many questioned the long-term durability of its unique drivetrain. While it offered impressive traction and a composed ride, torque steer and a heavy steering feel under hard acceleration made it less refined than expected. Oldsmobile sold only about 40,000 units in its debut year, far fewer than rivals like the Ford Thunderbird or Buick Riviera. The Toronado's advanced technology may have been ahead of its time, but it came at the cost of weight, complexity, and consumer confidence. Though the model would survive for decades and influence front-wheel drive development across the industry, the original 1966 Toronado stands as a case of brilliance outpacing the market. Stunning in concept and execution, it was ultimately too bold for the average buyer of the era. Number 24. 1964 Studebaker Daytona R2. In a final attempt to remain relevant in the fiercely competitive American performance car market, Studebaker unleashed the Daytona R2 in 1964, a car that offered shocking speed from a company on the brink of collapse. At the heart of the R2 was a factory-supercharged 289 cubic inch V8, producing a surprising 290 horsepower thanks to a Paxton centrifugal blower. This made the lightweight, unassuming Daytona sedan one of the quickest American cars of its time, capable of 0 to 60 in just over 7 seconds. To the untrained eye, the Daytona R2 didn't look like much, just a modest compact with clean, conservative styling and optional bucket seats. But under the hood, it packed serious heat that could hold its own against bigger muscle cars like the Pontiac GTO or Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt. Studebaker even offered a close-ratio 4-speed manual and limited slip differential, adding to its sleeper status. Unfortunately, performance alone couldn't save the Daytona R2 or the company behind it. By 1964, Studebaker was in freefall. Factories were closing, dealers were jumping ship, and public confidence had evaporated. The R2 was expensive to build and sold in tiny numbers. Only around 700 were produced with the supercharged engine. Even fewer came with the performance-oriented Avanti suspension upgrades that made the most of its speed. Though the Daytona R2 remains a cult favorite among collectors and performance historians, it failed in its day because it arrived far too late. Studebaker ceased U.S. car production just 1 year later, in 1965, and the R2 became a high-octane footnote in the company's tragic finale. It's a shining example of a brilliant car built by a brand that simply couldn't keep the lights on long enough for people to notice. Number 23. 1961 Oldsmobile Starfire. When the Oldsmobile Starfire debuted as a standalone model in 1961, it was billed as the pinnacle of performance and luxury for the division of bold, chrome-laden coupe meant to rival the likes of the Ford Thunderbird and Buick Riviera. Originally introduced as a limited-run convertible in 1954, the Starfire nameplate returned with aggressive styling, abundant trim, and serious horsepower. Beneath the hood, it featured a 494 cubic inch rocket V delivering 335 horsepower, impressive numbers for the early 60s. It also came equipped with advanced features for the time, such as power steering, power brakes, a Hydra-matic automatic transmission, and even power bucket seats, all as standard equipment. The interior was lush and stylish, with brushed aluminum trim and a center console that gave it a sporty, upmarket feel. On paper, the Starfire was everything a buyer could want in a personal performance coupe: fast, refined, and loaded with features. But the Starfire never quite clicked with the buying public. Its high price tag placed it dangerously close to Cadillac territory, while its brand image still carried the conservative stigma of Oldsmobile's family sedan heritage. The car's heavy curb weight sapped some of its performance edge, and despite the big power figures, it wasn't particularly agile or engaging to drive. Meanwhile, the Ford Thunderbird lighter, better styled and more focused, outsold the Starfire handily. In its first full year, Oldsmobile sold only about 35,000 units, and demand steadily declined through the mid-60s. By 1966, the Starfire coupe was quietly phased out, leaving behind a legacy of unmet potential. Stunning in design and lavishly equipped, the 1961 Starfire proved that even muscle luxury hybrids need clear identity and compelling performance to survive. Number 22. 1963 Chrysler 300J. The Chrysler 300J of 1963 was part of the legendary Letter series, a line of high-performance luxury coupes that had once defined American grand touring prestige. Carrying on the tradition of brute power mixed with premium appointments, the 300J was equipped with a 413 cubic inch Golden Lion V8, producing 390 horsepower and a neck-snapping 470 pounds-feet of torque. On paper, this made it one of the most powerful and sophisticated cars of its time. The styling was bold and muscular, with a long hood, short deck profile, deeply sculpted sides, and signature toilet seat decklet, which divided opinions even in its day. The interior was just as dramatic, boasting individual front and rear bucket seats, a full-length center console, electroluminescent gauges, and aircraft-style push-button transmission controls. Everything about the 300J screamed performance, luxury, excess. Yet despite all the muscle and flair, the 300J was a spectacular commercial failure. Chrysler made only 400 units that year, making it the lowest-selling model in the entire Letter series. Part of the blame lay in the changing market. By 1963, younger buyers were flocking to smaller, lighter muscle cars like the Pontiac GTO, while older buyers were drifting toward more refined luxury options. The 300J, meanwhile, was stuck in an identity crisis: too brash and thirsty for a luxury cruiser, but too big and ponderous to be a true muscle car. Its massive powertrain made it quick in a straight line, but its sheer weight and size rendered it a handful in the corners. Add to that a steep price and aging platform, and it was easy to see why it failed to resonate. The 300J remains a rare and fascinating example of Chrysler's attempt to keep its high-performance lineage alive, but in the end, it became a stunning misfire. Number 21. 1969 Chevrolet Impala SS 427. By the time the Chevrolet Impala SS 427 rolled out in 1969, the golden era of full-size performance was already in decline. Once a dominant force in the American muscle market, the Supersport badge had lost much of its luster as buyers turned their attention to smaller, lighter, more affordable muscle cars like the Camaro, Chevelle, and Nova. Despite this shift, Chevrolet still equipped the Impala SS 427 with serious firepower, a big block 427 cubic inch V8, pushing out up to 390 horsepower, depending on the version ordered. On paper, the Impala SS 427 was a highway terror. It could hustle the massive coupe from 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds and devour quarter miles in under 15. Its available turbo Hydra-matic transmission and optional posi-traction rear axle gave it long-legged performance, ideal for straight-line cruising and brute force acceleration. But the performance came with a price. The Impala SS427 was heavy, nearly 2 tons, and lacked the handling finesse or agility of mid-size rivals. Worse yet, it was expensive, and its subtle styling gave few clues about the potent engine hiding under its long hood. Buyers were increasingly interested in flash and affordability, both of which the Impala lacked by 1969 standards. Chevrolet sold fewer than 2,000 units of the Impala SS427 that year, and it was the last model year for the full-size SS designation. After that, the Super Sport badge was confined to smaller, more marketable platforms. Despite its raw power and comfort, the Impala SS427 simply couldn't keep up with the changing tides of the muscle car movement. Today, it remains a rare and misunderstood powerhouse, a full-size missile built at the wrong time for the wrong crowd. Number 20. 1969 Chevrolet Corvette L88. The 1969 Chevrolet Corvette L88 was a no-compromise, race-ready beast that blurred the line between street car and track weapon. Underneath its sleek C3 body, the L88 housed a massive 427 cubic inch big block V8, officially rated at 430 horsepower, but in reality producing well over 500 horsepower thanks to a radical aluminum cylinder head design and aggressive camshaft profile. This raw power was coupled with a racing-inspired suspension, heavy-duty brakes, and minimal soundproofing, all designed to strip weight and maximize performance. The L88 was essentially a Corvette built to compete in SCCA and FIA racing, homologated for the street to meet racing regulations. But the race car level setup came at a steep price in comfort and practicality. The car lacked basic amenities such as a radio, heater, or even a fan shroud, making it uncomfortable for everyday driving. Its exhaust note was deafening, and the engine required frequent maintenance and tuning to stay in peak condition. With a sticker price nearly double that of a standard Corvette coupe, the L88 was priced out of reach for most buyers. Only 116 examples were built in 1969 out of nearly 39,000 total Corvettes produced that year. Its rarity was compounded by its complexity and impracticality, which scared off all but the most dedicated enthusiasts and professional racers. Despite its commercial failure, the L88 earned a legendary reputation over time. It became one of the most coveted collector cars in Corvette history, prized for its brutal performance and racing pedigree. The 1969 L88 was a stunning testament to Chevrolet's ability to push technological boundaries, but it was a model that failed miserably at finding a mainstream audience in its own time. Number 19. 1967 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. The 1967 Chevrolet Camaro Z28 was a purpose-built muscle car designed with one goal in mind: to dominate the Trans Am racing series. Beneath its aggressive stance and subtle badging lay a high-revving 302 cubic inch small block V8 that was engineered for maximum performance on the track. Rated officially at 290 horsepower, the Z28's true output was rumored to be higher, thanks to a solid lifter camshaft, high-flow cylinder heads, and a robust 4-barrel carburetor. Despite its racing intent, Chevrolet kept the Z28 almost a secret during its debut year. It was not even listed in the 1967 Camaro sales brochure, a strategic move that left many prospective buyers unaware of its existence. This secrecy contributed to dismal showroom performance. Only 602 Z28s were sold in 1967, making it an ultra-rare gem. The Z28's engineering was truly groundbreaking for the time, featuring a close-ratio 4-speed manual transmission, heavy-duty suspension components, and front disc brakes, all designed to give it an edge on twisty road courses. The car was light and agile, traits that made it a formidable competitor against the likes of the Ford Mustang Boss 302 and other Trans Am contenders. Drivers praised its balanced handling and screaming high-revving engine, which could easily stay in the power band up to 8,000 RPM. Despite its lackluster sales initially, the Z28 set the stage for Chevrolet's muscle car success in the late 60s and beyond. The following years saw better marketing, higher production numbers, and an elevated reputation that cemented the Z28 as a classic performance icon. but the 1967 model remains a stunning example of a muscle car that was born to race, yet failed to find its audience right away. Number 18. 1968 Buick GS 400 Stage 1. The 1968 Buick GS 400 Stage 1 was Buick's bold statement in the muscle car arena, aiming to blend luxury refinement with genuine high-performance power. Introduced mid-year as an upgrade to the standard GS 400, the Stage 1 package featured a hotter camshaft, larger 4-barrel carburetor, freer flowing exhaust, and improved ignition timing, boosting output to a claimed 345 horsepower. Underneath its relatively understated exterior lurked a muscle car sleeper, capable of impressive acceleration and top-end speed. Unlike the flamboyant pony cars of the era, the GS 400 Stage 1 wore Buick's signature restrained, styling clean lines, modest badging, and a dignified presence that made it easy to overlook its true capabilities. This subtlety was a double-edged sword. While it appealed to buyers seeking muscle without flash, it also meant the car flew under the radar in a market obsessed with eye-catching graphics and aggressive looks. The Stage 1 came with heavy-duty suspension upgrades, including larger sway bars and stiffer springs, which improved handling without sacrificing ride quality. Despite its potent package, the GS 400 Stage 1 struggled to capture widespread attention. Buick's conservative marketing approach left many potential customers unaware of the enhanced performance, and the muscle car spotlight was firmly focused on brands like Pontiac, Chevrolet, and Dodge. By the end of 1968 and into 1969, only around 1,500 Stage 1 models had been sold, making it a rare footnote in muscle car history. In retrospect, the 1968 Buick GS 400 Stage 1 stands as a fascinating example of understated performance. It offered genuine muscle car thrills wrapped in luxury car sophistication, but its muted presentation and limited promotion caused it to fail miserably in the marketplace. For collectors and enthusiasts, it remains a hidden gem, proof that even subtlety can hide stunning power. Number 17. 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. The 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am marked the birth of what would become one of Pontiac's most iconic nameplates, yet its debut was met with lukewarm sales and widespread confusion. Built to compete in the Sports Car Club of America's Trans Am Racing Series, the car featured a high-compression 400 cubic inch Ram Air 3rd V8 as standard, with the optional Ram Air 4 offering even more aggressive cam timing and flow characteristics. Both engines delivered potent performance, with the Ram Air 4 producing up to 370 horsepower in a lightweight pony car shell. The Trans Am was available only in polar white with blue racing stripes in its debut year, giving it an unmistakable and purpose-driven aesthetic. It came equipped with upgraded suspension, quick ratio steering, and functional air scoops, making it more than capable on twisty roads and racetracks alike. However, the lack of promotional effort and internal competition with the more affordable GTO meant that most buyers simply didn't know what the Trans Am was or why they should pay extra for it. Compounding its struggles was the timing. Arriving late in the model year, the Trans Am had little opportunity to gain traction with dealers or the public. Only 697 units were built in 1969, including just 8 convertibles, making it a spectacular failure by sales standards. Its aggressive looks and high-performance specs weren't enough to overcome Pontiac's muddled messaging and lack of dealer enthusiasm. In hindsight, the 1969 Firebird Trans Am laid the groundwork for the muscle-bound, fire-breathing icons that followed in the 70s. But in its inaugural year, it was a stunning performer that failed miserably to capture the attention it truly deserved. Today, those few early Trans Ams are among the most prized and collectible muscle cars ever built. Number 16. 1965 Pontiac 2+2. The 1965 Pontiac 2+2 was Pontiac's bold attempt to blend full-size comfort with legitimate muscle car performance, often nicknamed the GTO's big brother. Riding on the full-size Catalina platform, the 2+2 came standard with a massive 421 cubic inch V8 and optional upgrades, took it up to a staggering 421 high-output version, rated at 376 horsepower. With its dual exhausts, heavy-duty suspension, and a sporty interior, the 2+2 delivered a surprising mix of brute force and refinement. Despite its impressive mechanicals and handsome looks, the 2+2 struggled to find its place in the market. Buyers who wanted performance typically gravitated toward the smaller, lighter GTO, while those interested in full-size cars often preferred more luxurious or conservative choices. The 2+2 was caught in the middle, too large and expensive to appeal to younger muscle car fans, and too aggressive to woo traditional full-size buyers. Adding to its woes was a lack of promotional push from Pontiac. The brand was laser-focused on the success of the GTO, which had become a sensation by 1965, leaving the 2+2 as something of an afterthought. Even though Motor Trend and Car and Driver praised its performance, calling it one of the quickest big cars of the era, few buyers took notice. Only a few thousand units were sold that year, a disappointing figure considering the overall strength of Pontiac's muscle car portfolio. Today, the 1965 Pontiac 2+2 is a rare and often overlooked gem. It was a stunning car in both looks and performance, but its failure to connect with a clear audience caused it to vanish quickly from Pontiac's lineup. As a result, it remains one of the most fascinating full-size muscle cars that failed miserably despite its potential. Number 15. 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. The 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429 was the most brutal and intimidating pony car Ford ever built, created solely to meet NASCAR homologation requirements. Beneath the hood sat a hand-assembled 729 cubic centimeter Hemi head V8 codenamed Boss 429, producing a conservative rating of 375 horsepower. In reality, its output was well above that, with estimates often exceeding 500 horsepower when properly tuned. To shoehorn this massive engine into the Mustang, Ford outsourced final assembly to Carcraft, who heavily modified standard Mustang bodies, widening shock towers, repositioning inner fenders, and relocating the battery to the trunk. The result was a Mustang that looked aggressive and sinister, but one that also carried the kind of bespoke complexity that made it expensive to build and difficult to maintain. Despite its potential, the Boss 429 wasn't the best performer on the streets. It was heavy in the nose, limited in rev range, and burdened by a conservative cam and carb setup intended to keep warranty claims down. While the engine was a marvel of engineering and destined for NASCAR glory, the street car was something of an enigma. Priced over $4,000 in 1969, significantly more than a base Mustang or even mini muscle car Revolsit, struggled to find buyers. Ford sold only 859 units that year, far below expectations. The car's immense potential was stifled by compromises, and its track-focused design never truly translated to street dominance. Today, the 1969 Boss 429 is a holy grail among collectors for its rarity and mechanical significance. But at the time, it was a stunning machine that failed to make a meaningful dent in the muscle car marketplace. It was an engineering masterpiece wrapped in marketing missteps and street performance limitations. Number 14. 1969 Mercury Marauder X100. The 1969 Mercury Marauder X100 was a bold, full-size attempt by Mercury to blend luxury and muscle in a single aggressive package, but it ultimately failed to connect with buyers in either camp. Designed to compete with the likes of the Pontiac Grand Prix and Buick Riviera, the X100 featured a distinctive fastback roofline, hidden headlights, and sporty design flourishes uncommon for a car of its size. Under the hood, it came standard with Ford's massive 429 cubic inch Thunderjet V8 engine, pumping out a healthy 360 horsepower. The Marauder X100 wasn't just about straight-line performance, it also featured a heavy-duty suspension, dual exhausts, and rear fender skirts, all contributing to a confident ride and unique styling. But while it looked the part and had the power to match, the X100 never carved out a niche. It was too large and plush for muscle car purists, and too aggressive and unconventional for traditional full-size buyers. Adding to its challenges was the confusing branding. Mercury struggled to clearly market the X100. Was it a personal luxury coupe or a gentleman's muscle car? The blurred identity left dealers unsure and buyers unconvinced. Even though it had a price tag competitive with rivals, it couldn't match their brand cachet or clarity of purpose. In 1969, fewer than 6,000 X100s were sold, a deeply disappointing figure for what was supposed to be a halo performance model. Today, the Marauder X100 is a rare sight and a compelling example of a car that was mechanically stunning but conceptually adrift. It delivered big power and striking style, but failed miserably because it didn't know exactly what it wanted to be or who it was for. In the crowded and competitive muscle luxury space of the late 1960s, ambiguity was a fatal flaw. Number 13. 1969 Mercury Cougar Eliminator. The 1969 Mercury Cougar Eliminator was Mercury's most aggressive take on the muscle car era, engineered to go head-to-head with the Pontiac GTO, Chevrolet Camaro, and even its own cousin, the Ford Mustang Mach-1. It came with bold styling, including a front air dam, blacked-out grille, rear spoiler, high-impact colors, and racing stripes that made it impossible to miss. Beneath the dramatic exterior lay serious firepower, with engine options ranging from a high-revving 351 cubic inch V all the way up to the brutal 428 cubic inch Cobra jet, producing up to 410 horsepower. Despite its strong hardware and killer looks, the Cougar Eliminator never reached the sales success of other muscle cars in its class. Part of the problem was Mercury's image. It was perceived as a more refined, luxury-oriented brand compared to the youthful appeal of Ford or Chevrolet. This made it harder for the Eliminator to resonate with younger buyers, who were the primary audience for performance coupes. In addition, Mercury offered little marketing support for the model, and dealership enthusiasm was lukewarm at best. Most buyers opted for a Mustang, which offered similar performance at a lower price and with broader aftermarket support. The Cougar's longer wheelbase also made it feel heavier and less nimble than its Mustang sibling, undermining its street credibility. Only 2,002 Eliminators were sold in 1969, a number far below what was needed to make the model sustainable. Though stunning in appearance and potent under the hood, the Cougar Eliminator failed to establish itself in a saturated market. It remains a cult favorite today, but at the time, it was a high-performance misfire from a brand unsure of how to sell raw power. Number 12. 1969 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler Second. The 1969 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler Second was Mercury's ambitious, aerodynamic answer to the high-speed battles of NASCAR, built for homologation but never quite embraced by the public. Developed alongside the Ford Torino Talladega, the Spoiler Second featured a sleeker, extended front nose cone and flush-mounted grille designed to reduce drag and improve stability at high speeds. Beneath the hood, it came equipped with Ford's powerful 428 cubic inch Cobra jet V8, making the car as fast as it looked. This car was engineered to help Mercury compete with the likes of Dodge's Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird on the super speedways. And while it certainly had the chops for the track, the Spoiler Second struggled to make a mark on the street. Its unique nose and limited production, just 356 units, were built meant it was rarely seen and barely advertised. Mercury tried to spice things up with special edition color schemes tied to NASCAR drivers like Cale Yarborough and Dan Gurney, but even that did little to move the needle. Most buyers didn't understand or appreciate the aerodynamic advantages of the modified front end, and many simply found the styling awkward or unattractive. Worse still, the added length made parking and daily driving cumbersome, eliminating mainstream appeal. Despite its racing pedigree and eye-popping performance, the Cyclone Spoiler Second was a commercial flop. It was too niche, too misunderstood, and too overshadowed by its more flamboyant Mopar rivals. Today, collectors regard it as a fascinating what if, from the muscle car Warsaw Rare street-legal race car that failed miserably in showrooms despite its stunning speed and engineering. Number 11. 1969 Ford Torino Talladega. The 1969 Ford Torino Talladega was Ford's stealth weapon in the high-speed world of NASCAR, a factory-built race car disguised as a street-legal fastback. Built to homologate Ford's aerodynamic edge for the superspeedways, the Talladega featured a wind-cheating extended nose, flush-mounted grille, and smooth rocker panels to gain crucial tenths of a second at 200 miles per hour. Under the hood, it packed Ford's 428 cubic inch Cobra Jet V8, conservatively rated at 335 horsepower but capable of far more. The Talladega was named after the then-new Alabama racetrack, and it was purpose-built for one thing: winning. And on the NASCAR circuit, it did just that, helping Ford capture the manufacturer's championship in 1969. However, on dealership floors, it was a different story entirely. Only 754 units were produced, just enough to meet NASCAR's homologation rules, and they were never intended for mass-market appeal. The average buyer didn't care about aerodynamics, flush grills, or dropped rocker panels. They cared about styling, comfort, and practicality, areas where the Talladega made compromises. Worse yet, Ford offered the car only with a column-shifted automatic and bench seat, robbing it of the sporty feel muscle car buyers crave. With minimal advertising and zero dealer enthusiasm, the Talladega quickly faded into obscurity. It was a triumph on the track, but a flop in the showroom, a car that stunned engineers and racers, but left consumers cold. Today, the Ford Torino Talladega is a rare and revered example of form following function, a NASCAR hero that failed miserably as a street machine, despite its stunning mechanical achievements. Number 10. 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona was one of the most radical muscle cars ever released, a wind tunnel-tuned missile created solely to dominate NASCAR's high-banked ovals. With its signature 18-inch aerodynamic nose cone and massive 23-inch rear wing, the Daytona was the first stock car to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier on a closed course. Under the hood, buyers could opt for a 440 cubic inch Magnum V8 or the legendary 426 cubic inch Hemi, both delivering thunderous performance. But while it was unstoppable on the racetrack, the Charger Daytona flopped with the general public. Its styling was simply too extreme for most buyers, who found the towering wing and elongated nose more cartoonish than cool. The aerodynamic enhancements that helped it win at Talladega and Daytona made it impractical for street use, with limited rear visibility and a nose prone to scraping curbs and driveways. Despite Dodge's best efforts to market it as a limited edition halo car, only 503 Hemi-powered Daytonas were sold, barely meeting NASCAR's homologation requirement. Even with the more affordable 440 Magnum engine, total production was just over 500 units. Many sat unsold on dealer lots well into the early 1970s, with some even being converted back to regular Chargers by frustrated dealerships. Today, the Daytona is a blue-chip collectible revered for its role in racing history, but in its own time, it was considered a commercial failure. Stunning in both performance and outrageous design, the Charger Daytona's purpose-built nature alienated more customers than it attracted. It was a car ahead of its time, fast, focused, and ultimately misunderstood. Number 9. 1964 Plymouth Barracuda. The 1964 Plymouth Barracuda was Chrysler's bold attempt to beat Ford to the punch in the pony car wars, arriving 2 weeks before the debut of the legendary Mustang. Based on the humble Valiant platform, the Barracuda introduced a striking fastback design dominated by a massive wraparound rear glass that became its defining visual feature. While the styling was distinctive, it wasn't universally loved. Many critics felt it looked like a warmed-over compact rather than a true performance car. Performance-wise, the Barracuda offered more than met the eye. The top engine option was the 273 cubic inch V8, producing up to 180 horsepower, respectable but hardly thrilling. Plymouth tried to market the car to younger buyers by touting its sporty handling and racy silhouette, but the lack of a true high-performance variant left enthusiasts cold. Compounding the problem was the Barracuda's association with the staid Valiant, which dulled its muscle car credentials. Dealers struggled to sell the car as a stylish alternative to more aggressive offerings on the market. Worse still, the arrival of the 1965 Mustang just weeks later completely eclipsed the Barracuda, both in public imagination and sales figures. Despite being first to market in the pony car segment, the Barracuda was largely forgotten in the performance conversation. It lacked the power, flair, and marketing punch of its blue oval rival. In the showroom, it failed to make a significant impact, with sales falling far short of expectations. Though later versions of the Barracuda would evolve into true muscle car monsters, the 1964 original stands as a stunning but ultimately underwhelming start. Number 8. 1962 Plymouth Full-Size Savoy, Belvedere, Fury. The 1962 Plymouth full-size line, consisting of the Savoy, Belvedere, and Fury, was one of the boldest styling missteps of the decade, even though under the skin, these cars were serious performance machines. After a last-minute decision by Chrysler president William Newberg, Plymouth downsized its full-size cars for 1962, believing Chevrolet was about to do the same. But Chevrolet didn't, and the result was a full-size Plymouth lineup that looked oddly stubby, narrow, and out of step with consumer expectations. Despite their awkward appearance, the Savoy, Belvedere, and Fury could be equipped with some of the most formidable engines of the era, including the fearsome 413 cubic inch max wedge V8 that made up to 420 horsepower. These were among the fastest cars on American streets and strips, dominating superstock drag racing with blistering quarter-mile times. But all that performance was hidden behind ungainly styling that left buyers scratching their heads. The peculiar shrunken look, exaggerated fender lines, and clumsy proportions made the cars appear almost cartoonish compared to their sleek competitors. Sales suffered as a result, with Plymouth losing thousands of customers to Ford and General Motors during a crucial period of the muscle car era. Even the high-performance versions couldn't save the brand's reputation from the damage caused by the styling debacle. Collectors now recognize these oddball Mopars for their sleeper potential and track pedigree, but in 1962, they were a public relations disaster. They stunned on the drag strip but failed miserably in the showroom. Proof that even world-beating performance can overcome poor design choices in a style-conscious market. Number 7. 1962 Dodge Dart. The 1962 Dodge Dart was an unusual and rushed effort by Dodge to create a smaller, full-size car, amid rumors that General Motors would be downsizing its lineups. Dodge aimed to get ahead of the curve, but ended up with a car caught uncomfortably between segments too small to satisfy full-size buyers, yet too large and heavy for the compact market. Its styling was awkward, with squared-off lines and a somewhat bulbous profile that earned it the unflattering nickname "Plucked Chicken" among enthusiasts. Performance was where the Dart tried to stand out, especially with the option of the mighty 413 cubic inch max wedge V8, capable of producing over 400 horsepower. This engine made the Dart a fearsome competitor in drag racing and straight-line speed, and it was one of the fastest cars of the early muscle car era. Yet, despite this powerful heart, the Dart's sales cratered, plummeting from over 300,000 units in the previous year to just around 110,000 in 1962. Buyers were confused by Dodge's sudden shift in size and confused styling, and many felt the Dart lacked the modern flair and identity to compete in the rapidly evolving muscle and performance market. The car's awkward proportions and last-minute redesign left dealers and customers alike dissatisfied. Dodge quickly realized its mistake and undertook a major redesign for 1963, aiming for a sleeker, more balanced car that would better compete with the new crop of pony cars and muscle machines. Ultimately, the 1962 Dodge Dart remains a stunning example of how a hurried strategy and awkward execution can derail even a car with serious performance potential. It was a bold but failed experiment in downsizing, producing a muscle car that failed miserably in the showroom despite its powerful engine. Number 6. 1968 AMC AMX. The 1968 AMC AMX was a striking departure from the muscle car norms, a two-seat American muscle car that aimed to blend exotic sports car flair with brute force. Introduced by American Motors Corporation, a smaller player in the muscle car arena, the AMX was built on a shortened Javelin platform but featured a bold, compact design that turned heads wherever it went. Under its sleek hood lay a potent 390 cubic inch V8 engine, delivering an impressive 380 horsepower that made it a serious contender on both street and track. Despite glowing reviews from automotive journalists and a promising start, the AMX struggled in the showroom. Its unique two-seat configuration, while exciting on paper, limited its appeal to a broader audience who favored the practicality of four-seat muscle cars. Additionally, AMC's limited marketing resources and dealership reach meant that many potential buyers never seriously considered the AMX. Its price point, sitting higher than some competitors, also deterred budget-conscious enthusiasts looking for more traditional muscle cars. Though AMC produced roughly 19,000 AMXs over 3 model years, the 1968 model year represented a peak before demand started to taper off. The AMX's rarity and performance pedigree have made it a prized collector's item today, but in its era, it was overshadowed by more established muscle car icons. Its daring design and impressive performance were stunning, yet its niche appeal and market circumstances led to commercial disappointment. The 1968 AMC AMX remains a fascinating chapter in muscle car history, an American underdog that dared to be different but ultimately failed miserably to capture the mainstream muscle market despite its undeniable performance and style. Number 5. 1965 AMC Marlin. The 1965 AMC Marlin was American Motors Corporation's ambitious attempt to create a sporty, fastback, personal coupe that could rival the muscle and pony cars flooding the market at the time. Built on the midsize Rambler Classic platform, the Marlin featured a distinctive, somewhat polarizing fishbowl fastback roofline, characterized by its tall, curved rear glass that gave the car a unique silhouette but also divided opinion among buyers. Under the hood, the Marlin offered a respectable 300 horsepower from its 327 cubic inch V8 engine, which gave it decent performance but didn't quite put it in muscle car territory. Despite its bold styling and decent power, the Marlin struggled to find a foothold in a crowded market dominated by more aggressive and established muscle cars. Many consumers found the Marlin's awkward blend of luxury and sportiness, confusing it was neither a true muscle car nor a pure personal luxury coupe. Sales reflected this identity crisis. The 1965 model sold only about 10,000 units, a modest figure that failed to meet AMC's expectations. The situation worsened over the following years. By 1967, sales had plummeted to a mere 2,545 units, forcing AMC to discontinue the Marlin altogether. The Marlin's production run was short and largely unsuccessful, despite its unique design and AMC's hopes of carving out a new niche. Today, the 1965 AMC Marlin stands as a stunning example of bold styling and ambitious intent that failed miserably in the marketplace. It's remembered for its striking looks, but also as a cautionary tale of a car that tried to do too many things at once, pleasing few buyers and ending in commercial disappointment. Number 4. 1961 Pontiac Tempest. The 1961 Pontiac Tempest was an engineering marvel that pushed the boundaries of compact car design with a host of innovative features that were decades ahead of their time. It featured a unique rope drive system where the engine's power was transmitted to a rear-mounted transaxle through a flexible drive shaft, improving weight distribution and handling balance. Additionally, the Tempest employed a compact 4-cylinder slant engine derived from a half-V design, making it a bold experiment in efficiency and power for the era. On paper, these revolutionary design choices promised a new kind of driving experience in the compact segment, combining nimbleness with decent performance. Unfortunately, the Tempest was plagued by reliability problems that undermined consumer confidence. Transaxle issues and timing chain failures were common complaints that tarnished its reputation. Many owners found the car expensive to maintain and mechanically complex, which limited its appeal in a market dominated by simpler, more conventional cars. Despite these problems, Pontiac attempted to market the Tempest as a modern, sporty alternative to traditional compacts. Sales initially showed promise, but as reliability issues mounted, buyers turned away, and the innovative features became liabilities rather than selling points. By 1963, Pontiac abandoned the rope drive layout and reverted to a conventional front engine, rear drive setup, signaling the end of the Tempest's groundbreaking but flawed design. The 1961 Pontiac Tempest remains a stunning example of ambitious automotive engineering that failed miserably due to execution and market readiness. It was a car that dared to be different but was ultimately too experimental and troublesome for mainstream success. Today, it is remembered as a fascinating and rare footnote in Pontiac's history, a symbol of bold innovation that the market wasn't quite ready to embrace. Number 3. 1962 Oldsmobile Jetfire. The 1962 Oldsmobile Jetfire holds the distinction of being the world's first turbocharged production car, a technological marvel that aimed to deliver both performance and refinement in a package unlike anything else on the market. Powered by an aluminum V8 equipped with a Rochester turbocharger, the Jetfire produced a respectable 215 horsepower, impressive for the time, and making it one of the fastest American cars of its day. Oldsmobile positioned the Jetfire as a high-tech performance cruiser, combining the power of forced induction with a relatively smooth and comfortable ride. However, the Jetfire's groundbreaking technology came with significant downsides that severely limited its success. The engine relied on a special turbo rocket fluid, a volatile additive that was injected into the intake to prevent dangerous engine knock and detonation caused by the turbocharger's high boost pressures. This fluid required regular refills and was costly and inconvenient, frustrating owners who were unprepared for the maintenance demands of such advanced technology. Many drivers found the Jetfire unreliable due to engine failures linked to the fluid system, and some simply abandoned the turbocharging altogether by removing parts or converting to a conventional carburetor setup. Oldsmobile was forced to retrofit many early models with detuned, naturally aspirated engines to maintain customer satisfaction, which diluted the car's high-performance appeal. Despite its striking styling and the promise of cutting-edge performance, the 1962 Jetfire failed miserably in the marketplace. Only a little over 3,000 units were built, and sales dropped sharply as word spread about the car's complexities and upkeep issues. Today, the Jetfire is a stunning example of ambition and innovation gone awry, a car that was far ahead of its time but undone by technology too advanced for everyday use in the early 60s. Number 2. 1960 Chevrolet Corvair. The 1960 Chevrolet Corvair was a groundbreaking and daring design for General Motors, featuring a rear-engine, air-cooled layout that set it apart from virtually every other American car of its era. Designed to compete with the growing compact car market, the Corvair's innovative engineering included a flat-six engine mounted in the back, a swing-axle rear suspension, and a unibody chassis aimed at reducing weight and improving fuel efficiency. Early reviews praised the car's smooth ride and unique styling, and Chevrolet hoped it would be a game-changer for the company's lineup. However, the Corvair's unconventional design brought with it serious handling quirks that would soon lead to controversy. The rear swing-axle suspension, while innovative, was prone to sudden oversteer and unpredictable behavior in tight corners or emergency maneuvers, which made the car difficult for inexperienced drivers to control. These issues were famously highlighted in Ralph Nader's influential 1965 book, Unsafe at Any Speed, which criticized the Corvair's safety and brought national attention to its handling flaws. The resulting bad publicity severely damaged the Corvair's reputation and sales, despite Chevrolet's efforts to improve suspension design in later models. The car's air-cooled engine and rear-drive layout, though innovative, became a symbol of questionable safety in the public mind. Production continued until 1969, but the Corvair never fully recovered from the scandal and never achieved the commercial success Chevrolet had hoped for. Today, the 1960 Chevrolet Corvair is remembered as a stunning engineering experiment that failed miserably in the marketplace due to design compromises and safety concerns. It remains a fascinating and controversial chapter in American automotive history, representing both bold innovation and costly misjudgment. Number 1. 1962 Studebaker Avanti. The 1962 Studebaker Avanti was a visionary masterpiece, a fiberglass-bodied coupe that promised to redefine American performance and style with its futuristic design and supercharged V8 power. Styled by legendary industrial designer Raymond Loewy, the Avanti featured sleek, aerodynamic lines and a distinctive nose that set it apart from the boxy cars of the early 60s. Beneath its avant-garde exterior, The Avanti was powered by a supercharged 289 cubic inch V8 engine that promised supercar-level performance, making it one of the fastest American cars of its day. Despite the stunning aesthetics and impressive engineering, the Avanti's launch was marred by a series of unfortunate production delays and quality control issues. Studebaker, already struggling financially, was ill-prepared to meet demand and suffered from inconsistent manufacturing processes that led to fit-and-finish problems. These issues, combined with the company's financial woes, severely limited the Avanti's initial impact on the market. Studebaker's collapse in the early 1960s meant the Avanti's potential was never fully realized. Production was cut short, and the car became a rare and exotic oddity rather than the sales success that could have saved the company. Though the Avanti's performance and design were stunning, it failed miserably as a commercial product due to circumstances beyond its control. Today, the 1962 Studebaker Avanti is celebrated as a bold, ahead-of-its-time American sports car, a symbol of innovation hampered by timing and misfortune. It remains a fascinating testament to what might have been a stunning car whose legacy outshines its troubled past.